Hey everybody, welcome back to Excel 10-Minute Leaders. We're all about showcasing stories from people around the world leading in their own ways. They might not be necessarily C-suite leaders in the traditional sense, but they're making an impact. Technology, business, society. We're going to talk about sales today, one of my favorite subjects. And to do that, my guest today, all the way from Canada, Shawn Casemore, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Graham. Great to be here.
So, Shawn, we're going to talk about sales and let's get into that world of sales as well. I mean, you're a sales guy, I'm a sales guy.
Yeah,
That's how it is, right? I'm not ashamed of calling it something else like account management or business development, whatever it may be. But
yeah,
I think through and through, the people who are really good at this are salespeople and they're proud of it as well. So we've got
absolutely.
10 minutes today
Okay,
to talk about this subject, which is close to our hearts. Are you ready, Shawn?
I'm ready.
Okay, 10 minutes on the clock. Let's do this then. Go, right. So the first question is what does it say on Shawn Casemore's business card?
It says Shawn Casemore can help you accelerate your sales. What that really means is helping different organizations, obviously, be able to increase the rate with which they close sales and obviously closing higher value sales at the same time.
So when you work with people, CEOs as well as sales leaders as well, what tends to be the fundamental repeat problem that people have with closing sales?
Yeah, it's interesting in this day and age of technology and online sales and funnels and all these things. A lot of times what falls by the wayside is exactly what you said, the fundamentals of selling. I mean, after all, if you go back to when selling began, it was really, meeting people, determining from that meeting if those people are interested or may have a need for what you can provide them, and then making an exchange, adding value. And unfortunately, I think in today's day and age, a lot of sales is we're trying to use technology in the wrong ways. We're trying to use technology to take over the selling and the personal interaction. We're expecting it to do the lifting, but sales comes back to people and relationships. And if you're not willing to engage in that manner, it makes it awfully hard.
Where did you get your start in sales?
If I go back, if you read my website, I started selling door to door when I was 11. What happened was I wanted to get some money and I was cutting a couple neighbors' lawns and in summertime, my parents said, well, go knock on that neighbor's door and go see that neighbor. Then I started painting fences. So I was knocking on doors and handing out flyers at the age of 11, but officially I began selling cars in my mid-20s. I did that for quite a while and just loved the experience. Because I enjoy connecting with people and trying to help them find what they want. I'll tell you really quickly, one of the things that at the time my sales manager said, he said, Shawn, in all my years of selling cars, I've never heard of this. People would come meet me, we'd look at the vehicle, go through it. They would, if they bought somewhere else, oftentimes they would call me and apologize. And the sales manager said, I've never heard of that. And I said, well, not everybody wants to buy our product. You can tell me they do, but sometimes they don't. But if you build that rapport, they'll come back and they'll send other people back.
Yeah, fantastic. It's all about people at the end of the day.
It is.
And the skills that you pick up, even if you were door to door, painting fences, mowing lawns, that's where you've got your start, isn't it? And you can teach us a few things. All right, so I'm going to ask you what you can teach us. If you had, let's say you had 3 minutes, let's do 2 minutes. If you had 2 minutes to teach us, the audience, about your craft, sales, what could you teach us in 2 minutes that could change our business lives for the better?
Well, I'll give you an overview and then I'll give you some quick steps here. I think it's being genuinely interested in people. What I mean by interested is not interested in selling them, but interested in understanding where they're at in their life and what's really happening around them. So for example, if you were to contact somebody, let's say when I met you today, I can draw some assumptions, having had a podcast, been on podcasts, as to what's important to you in today's show. The timeline you want to keep, you want me to be an interesting guest, so your audience hangs around. So I can draw those assumptions if I put myself in your shoes. And then from that, I'm in the best position to build some rapport and trust with you. And when the timing's right, if I have something that I might want to sell to you, I could bring that forward. But it's really coming back to paying attention to people. Too often people in sales get stuck in their own head. They're thinking through, what's the next thing I'm going to say? What's the next step in the process? They're overthinking it. You have to be in the moment and pay attention to the person in front of you and put yourself in their shoes. And when you do so, you open up the doors for dialogue, relationship, trust, which are, again, all the fundamentals to selling.
What makes you a good salesperson? What's your superpower?
I think that's it. I mean, a lot of people, I do a lot of speaking, and a lot of people call me a collaborative and a collaborator, and I help other people build collaboration. And I think that's what it comes back to. I mean, I can tell you a lot of my clients that I've been working with, I have a very high rate of return. A lot of my clients are repeat clients that just keep coming back because I've built a collaborative relationship with them. But I also do a lot of advising of CEOs and sales leaders because it's about building collaboration with your customers. And if you have a sales team, amongst that team. So I would say that's a superpower. But how do you do that? It comes back to exactly what I said before. Put yourself in the other person's shoes first. And then when you're having a discussion, you're interacting, or even about to have a conversation, start with that. You know, you can say things like, look, Graham, I assume right now you're getting kind of tired. It's near the end of the day. So let me try and carry as much of this for you and not make you have to work hard, right? That's in your best interest. And it's probably somewhat true. That opens up, and that little bit of a smile from you suggests to me that this conversation's heading in the right direction.
Yeah, that's collaborative.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, you ask the next question then. Okay, so great. And I think, sales has had sometimes a bad rap in business.
Yeah.
It's often seen, I think if you were working your way through sales or through a business, you would start often in sales, because sales is often the entry level in any organization.
Can be.
Yeah. Anybody effectively can get into it as long as they can connect with people. You didn't need necessarily qualification to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people start in sales. A lot of entrepreneurs start selling, whether it's like yourself, painting fences. That's how we get our start. And yet, I think as people progress, they tend to think, oh, I've moved beyond that, or I didn't do an MBA to do sales, that kind of attitude. And yet you talk about CEOs as well. The sales, that's their job, ultimately, isn't it? I mean, do they get that? When you talk to CEOs, do often people still not see themselves as salespeople? Or what's the kind of attitude at the top towards sales?
I think, one of the challenges, so I've been the president of an organization that was national, had dozens of employees spread across the country. And so I know what it's like to be in those shoes. So it's very easy to me to speak to clients who are in those shoes, regardless of the size of their company. But I think what happens, a lot of CEOs come in, and where they get sucked into, their time dump tends to be focusing on customer issues, B, employee issues, C, maybe board issues or shareholder issues. And then whatever little time they have left is just putting out fires, right? Sales are down. What are we going to do, right? Piece of equipment broke down. What are we going to do? So they often see themselves as the person that tries to, I guess, be the glue amongst the team and keep things moving forward. But I've said in my last book, The Unstoppable Organization, I talked about the fact that, whether you're a president, CEO, large company, small company, you're the number one salesperson. And even if you don't sell day to day, if you're at a meeting and there are other salespeople there or your sales executives there, you better show them how to sell. If you're looking to them for that expertise and you can't sell at all, it's challenging, right? Because you want your people, your team, regardless of what level in the company, to look up to you, to learn from you. So I think every CEO, every president is in sales. And if they're not comfortable with that, that's okay. They still need to practice and demonstrate their ability to sell. And a lot of people would dispute that. They'd say, well, as CEO, I'm not the top salesperson. That's not my job. I would disagree. When I was leading this organization I mentioned before, I believed that I had to show people how to sell. Doesn't mean I didn't have people that were better at it than I was, but I better be able to sell, because why would you want to work for somebody that tells you how to do your job, but they can't do it themselves?
Absolutely. And they sell in different ways as well.
Yeah.
I think about CEOs now, even people like Elon Musk, he doesn't appear to be a salesperson. He doesn't appear to be your classic car salesperson, but he is a good salesperson. He sells the vision. He sells the story.
Yeah.
And that is his job,
Exactly.
giving that narrative to the investors and to the customers as well. And that's a sales job.
Yeah.
He's out there doing it. He's out there preaching it as well.
Well, he's selling the board, the investors. He's selling customers, right? He's selling his own employees to stick around, to work harder, right? To be successful. So as a CEO, you're selling all the time. You might not be selling just to customers. That's really the main difference. I remember when they brought the truck out and he said, these windows are shatterproof, and then it shattered, right? But he recovered well and kept moving ahead. He didn't let that deter him, right? And there's an example of what can happen in sales. Sometimes things don't go wrong in your biggest presentation of your life, but how do you recover, right? How do you move forward from that and keep going?
Can you, tough question, a bit off script, but let's say you were hiring and you've only got the benefit of 2 minutes with somebody. They walk into that room.
Yeah.
What is going to be the telltale signs, if such a thing exists? And maybe that's a bit unfair, but let's say you had 2 minutes with that person. What would be the giveaway signs without looking at the CV, without the resume in front of you, without looking at the previous sales records? 2 minutes with somebody, how do you know if that person's going to be good at selling?
Well, I think number one is observation, just as I mentioned before. No different than you should do with your customers. Put yourself in their shoes. So you know this person's going to be nervous, right? But then from that perspective, are they looking you in the eye? Are they smiling when they're talking to you, right? And again, you have to set aside, there will be some nervousness happening here, but you're really trying to gauge, is this person comfortable with people? Because not everybody is. And if you're not comfortable with people, it's very difficult to sell. It doesn't mean you can't sell, but it may come, be a little bit harder for you to become comfortable in that kind of role. So I'm just observing the individual, how they behave, how they act, their gestures. And then if I could only ask them one question, it would be that, the common question, tell me about a challenging time that you've had to deal with somebody else who wasn't happy with you. How did you respond to that? Walk me through. And then in interviews, I'm a fan of a little bit of ad lib. I mean, you have the basic questions, but depending on how the person responds, that will change my follow-up. I'm not going to go back to a script. And what I'm really trying to do again is understand, how will this person keep themselves motivated when nobody wants to buy, maybe in the early part of their career? How will they deal with that first customer rejection? How will they deal with an upset customer? Because those are the sale is the win and the excitement and the joy, right? But then we've all have to learn to deal with those other things and stay up and keep motivated and keep going. And that's one of the greater challenges of people that are in sales. Most people that were in sales and left because they had a couple bad experiences, they couldn't bring themselves back up. They couldn't stay motivated. They said, this isn't for me,
Absolutely. Great advice. How do we find out more, Shawn Casemore? Where do I go to? Give us your website.
Sure, yeah. So people can check me out at www.shawncasemore.com, just as it's spelled on the screen. Lots of free resources there. And I also do a free virtual training, typically once a month. And if they go to shawncasemore.com/event, they can always register for free there, no obligation. But it's taking a lot of the trainings that I do around introducing unstoppable selling, is what I call it, into any business. So they're happy to join me there as well.
Go and check it out. Hey everybody, that's Shawn Casemore. You can go and find out more about him at his website, as well as his writings and his events. Shawn, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. I appreciate it. It's been a great chat.